My Jewish name was Heike. And when I became a citizen, turned into Ida.
Ida, how are you feeling?
Today I feel good.
What is your usual answer?
Not so good. Today I feel good because I'm with a lot of company. I was born in 1910 in the Ukraine. Absolutely. Okay.
That's right.
Wait, I'll help you
She
in
didn't
your
even
room.
tell us. She told us to.
You wonder, is it the right thing to do to tell your children those stories or the wrong? But
Yeah, and we'll play with flour all day and not pay attention to the video.
I used to tell them as much as they asked what happened. And that's what it is. Oh boy, I could see it all, believe it or not. Our town, which the name of small in the Ukraine was Kiblich, the name of the town, and that was in 1918. It was a small town, but we lived on the outskirts, like suburban. The Jewish people lived in the center of the town, of the small town. The peasants or the farmers, they lived on the outskirts, and that's where we lived.
If we're talking about Jews in the Russian Empire, the vast, vast majority of them lived in the Pale of Settlement, the area established by Catherine the Great, where the largest Jewish populations in the world were concentrated. Most of them eked out a very, very poor living as middlemen, as traders, as artisans. It was, in some respects, a bleak life economically. It was, however, a very rich life religiously and culturally.
My father built a new home there. And of course, the dining room had a great big table where everybody could sit. Friday night, my mother didn't go every Friday, but my father used to go to the synagogue. And what I remember is even before the war broke out in 1917, when he went to shul Friday night, he would come home with a bunch of kids that were from out of town, soldiers. And he would bring them home for dinner. We kids had to sit at the table and not move until dinner was over, until the prayers were over, until another prayer after you got through eating. And then you were released, but you couldn't move. We had two samovar. The samovar was at the end of the table there, and it was always going. Whoever came in, have a glass of tea.
Wie geht die Ehegeschichte? Menschen haben Leute.
I remember my mother and one thing, one outfit that she had. Gray wool, long skirt. And this is the only thing that I really remember. She was rather quiet, and whatever was said, that everything should be okay. You close your eyes and you try to think. Since we didn't have any pictures, in my own mind, I'm really not sure what she looked like, but this I remember. And she was beautiful. I don't know whether she was 32 or 34 when she died. My sister Yara, you met Yara. She was 8 months old. I was at the window, and all of a sudden I saw and I recognized the blanket. And then I said, oh my God, here she goes. I remember that, just like it is today. That's exactly what happened. She died in 1918. And then when the revolution came, the Kazakhs came into our town.
Without World War I, there would never have been a Russian Revolution, in my estimation. World War I sharpened the social and ethnic divisions within the Russian Empire. World War I also impoverished Russians. The cost of the war was so great. Not only troops at the front who lacked food, lacked armaments, lacked uniforms, and were suffering terribly already by 1916. And the Tsarist state was so obviously at fault for the disasters that happened both on the battlefield and at home. Hence, in the famous incident in March 1917, women textile workers in Petrograd, today St. Petersburg, left textile factories and went out on the streets and demanded bread. And that spontaneous action very rapidly escalated into a revolution that first overthrew the Tsar and his government in this first revolution in March 1917, and then in November led to the Bolshevik Revolution. The revolution unleashes all of these social forces.
Everything changed. Everything. It was around December when the Kazakhs came into our town. Oh boy. I could see it all, believe it or not. All. It was a beautiful day. We were, in the house trying to get some lunch, or may have been breakfast, and all of a sudden you heard the rumbles, from the horses, the hoofs from the horses. And then when we heard them, we started running away. My other sister and the kids, they ran one direction, we ran the other. I ran with the two cousins. When they were running, I followed them. As a child, they were older. I was only 8 years old. First, we went across the bridge, and we tried to get closer to the lake. But instead of the lake, we saw high fields with the hay. So we figured we were going to hide there. The Kazakhs, they were on horses, so they can look down. They came with the swords, with the guns. Actually, with the guns, you know. Come on out. Then we got on the bridge. Then they killed those two cousins. One was Usher and Nachman. I can see it, but it's very hard for me to describe it, but I can see it right now. What I see, there were two or three standing there with the guns and shooting. And then they told me, move away, because I was a redhead, freckled little girl. And then they left, and I started walking back to my house. And that's what happened that particular morning.
Violence, especially of the kinds we're talking about, is political in nature. The way Jews had been stereotyped and discriminated against for centuries contributed to a popular sense in Eastern Europe in particular that Jews were inferior. They were to be feared, but they were also inferior. But we still need those trigger moments, and that's when life really gets dangerous for lots of people.
When I got to the house, I waited to see if anybody was coming home. Finally, my sisters start coming in. My sister Ita, a neighbor, hit her with the baby on top of the stove. That's where they hid my sister. They were the Gentile people. These were our neighbors. We decided that it's time to leave. And we left everything, and started walking in the fields and all over. And it could have been maybe 150 miles or something like that. What my father was planning, talking and planning, we're going to go to America. That was to make you feel better. We're going to go to America.
Did that make you feel better?
A child, when you tell a story, a good story, you don't tell a bad story. Well, naturally, it makes you feel better. It gives you a little hope. There was Ita, Anna, Fanny, Morris, Lou. My name is Heike. The baby was Yetta. And then my father, Schleimer.
I mean, Jewish communities, by and large, coexisted with Christian communities in Eastern Europe for centuries. It's more mark of the late 19th and 20th centuries that those communities could no longer live together. And there, that's when trigger mechanisms come into play. Serious economic deprivation over a fairly long period of time, that is also a major stress factor. But I would say more than anything else, it's war.